The Five Little Peppers and How They Grew. Chapter 7. A Sudden Darkness. The afternoon continued with Polly sewing on and on. Her eyes began to feel as if they had sand in them, and she rubbed them hard in order to see the thread. It didn't seem to help much. She managed, however, to get a good deal of the job done, and before putting the sewing away entirely, she promised herself that she would get it all done in the morning. But when morning came, Polly could hardly move. She barely had strength enough to tumble out of bed and shuffle across the room to look at her face in an old cracked mirror. And what she saw was something she hoped was just an illusion. A second and a third look convinced her that it was not. Desperately, with a hope of driving off the sickness, Polly managed somehow to get into her clothes, and then went groping blindly into the kitchen. She tried to set the table, but it was no use. Everything was suddenly becoming so very dark. Polly wavered a minute, and then fell on the floor in a faint. This time, when Dr. Fisher arrived at the little brown house, some time later, it was to find out what was the matter with Polly's eyes. The little man examined Polly and asked her when it was that she first began not to feel well. Polly thought back and confessed that day before her back had ached quite a bit, and then she was baking over the old stove. Also, when she had sat down to sew, it didn't stop. Her eyes had bothered her so, though that she hadn't minded the backache so much. I thought so," said the doctor. He turned to Mrs. Pepper. "I would say that Polly has been using her eyes entirely too much for sewing. They are quite bad." At this, Phronsie, who was nearby, cried out, "Oh, please don't make Polly sick. Please don't." Dr. Fisher came over and patted Phronsie's golden curls gently. "There, there, little girl," he assured her. "We're going to make Polly well, so that she can see splendidly." "Will you really?" asked the child. "Of course. We'll try very hard. And now you mustn't cry, 'cause if you do, then Polly'll cry, and that will make her eyes even worse." "I won't cry," promised Phronsie, quickly wiping her eyes with one chubby hand. "That's a good girl," said the doctor, and after giving Mrs. Pepper some instructions, he left. "Oh, Momsey, if it was anything but my eyes, I could stand it," Polly groaned in despair as she lay in bed, her eyes bandaged with a soft old handkerchief. "But now you'll do all the work." "Don't think of the work," Mrs. Pepper told her. "I can't do anything but think," said poor Polly. Later on in the day, Grandma Bascom came by to visit, and she was patiently made to understand that Polly now had the measles, and the same as Ben and Phronsie. The worst part about it in Polly's sickness, though, is her eyes, Mrs. Pepper explained in a near shout. "Her eyes, is it?" asked Mrs. Bascom. "Well, I've got something at home that Cousin Smanthy's folks had when John's children had the measles. I'll run along home and get it." "No, please don't do that, Grandma," shouted Mrs. Pepper. "Dr. Fisher has already been here, and he's put something in Polly's eyes, and he said that they mustn't be touched." "Eh?" said the old lady. "What say?" So Mrs. Pepper had to repeat that Polly's eyes were being cared for, and that they would simply have to wait for time to do the rest. When Grandma Bascom's call was done, she took Joel back to her home, where she opened an old-fashioned chest of drawers and took out some red and white paper mints. She gave them to Joel, telling him that he might take them all back to the little brown house, only he was to give most of the mints to the sick children. Joel ran home as quickly as he could to carry out Grandma's wishes. When he came to Polly, he saw 2 big tears rolling down under the bandages and dampening the pillow. "I don't want them," said Polly, when Joel informed her that he had some real peppermints for her. "You may have them all." "Try one, Polly," begged Joel. They're real good, honest. Open your mouth." Polly opened her mouth just to please Joel, and he put one in with satisfaction. "It is good," said Polly, starting to crunch it. "Grandma Bascom is very kind." "Do you want another one?" asked Joel. "No, not yet anyway. Just put 2 on my pillow where I can reach them, and then you keep the rest, Joel." "I'll put 3, said Joel. He selected 2 white ones and 1 red one, placing them on the pillow. "There." "I want another one, too," Phronsie called out. "I'll give you a red one, Phronsie," said Joel. "No, 2 red ones. Now come on, Dave. We'll have the rest out by the woodpile." Late in the afternoon, a carriage drew up in front of the little brown house, and Mr. and Mrs. Henderson stepped out. "I'm sorry to hear that the children are sick," said the minister, when Mrs. Pepper opened the front door. "We didn't know it until just a while ago. May we see them?" "Oh, yes, sir," answered Mrs. Pepper. "Ben is upstairs, and Polly and Phronsie are in the other room." The minister went up the crooked stairs to see Ben first, while Mrs. Henderson went straight to Polly's side. She placed a cool, gentle hand atop Polly's forehead and whispered, "I've come to see my little chicken now." "Mrs. Henderson!" exclaimed Polly. Even though her eyes were covered, she recognized the kind, soft voice. "How are the baby chicks?" "Just fine. They were chasing a grasshopper last time I saw them today." Mrs. Henderson went on to tell Polly and Phronsie how the chicks had grown. When the minister came down from Ben's room at last, Mrs. Henderson went upstairs to the loft. "So this is the little girl who came to see if I was sick," said the minister, sitting down by Polly. "Oh, I'm so glad you weren't," Polly managed to say. Chapter 8. Miss Jerusha's Visit. Before the Hendersons drove away, many good things to eat were brought into the little brown house by the minister and his wife and left in the kitchen. But Polly's eyes didn't seem to get any better with all the care, and Mrs. Pepper became more and more worried. When she confronted Dr. Fisher with her fears, the good doctor took her hands in his and said, "You must not worry so, Mrs. Pepper. It may take some time for your little girl's eyes to regain their strength. Time and rest. But she will come out of it." "God bless you," murmured Mrs. Pepper gratefully. Meanwhile, of course, Dr. Fisher continued to attend Ben and Phronsie as well. One day, as he asked Phronsie, "What does Polly want most of all? Do you know?" "Yes," answered Phronsie. She leaned over and whispered in the doctor's ear, "A stove." "A what?" said the doctor. "But she's got one." "It isn't any good," explained the child. "It won't burn. Ben has to stuff it with paper, but then it all tumbles out quickly, and oh, it's just no good. Sometimes Polly cries. She does, when she's all alone and I see her." Phronsie shook her blonde head sadly. "I see," said the doctor, writing something down on a piece of paper and putting it in his inside coat pocket. To poor Polly, laying in darkened room or sitting in a big rocking chair, for in her case the disease had affected mainly her eyes, and she was not very sick in other respects, the time seemed endless, not to do anything. The very idea seemed to fill her active, wide-awake body with horror. Yet here she was. "Oh, dear, I can't bear it," she exclaimed, once when she knew by the noise in the kitchen that everybody was out there. "If Ben could only be here to talk to me." "Polly," shouted Joel at that moment, "guess what? Ben's coming down the stairs." "Joey, you shouldn't have told," Mrs. Pepper was heard to say. "He wanted to surprise Polly." Ah," cried Polly. "Is it really, truly, true? Ben, where are you? Momsey, can't I take off this bandage so I can see him?" "No, Polly, no," said Mrs. Pepper, springing forward. "Well, I can hear anyway," said Polly with some measure of thankfulness in her voice. "Ben, are you there?" "Right here," said Ben, grasping Polly's bandage and all. After the first excitement of Ben's reunion with Polly, Mrs. Pepper said, "Now that you're so happy and comfortable together, and since Phronsie doesn't want me now, I think I'll go to the store. I must get some work, if Mr. Atkins will give it to me." "I'll be all right now Ben's here," cried Polly. "I'm going to tell her stories, Ma," said Ben, "so you don't need worry about it." Mrs. Pepper looked upon her happy little group together once more, and there were tears in her eyes with joy and thanksgiving. She left the little brown house. The following day it happened that Polly and Ben and Joel were the only ones in the little brown house, and Mrs. Pepper had decided to see one of her customers who had long been waiting for some tailoring to be done by her, and David had gone to the store to buy something. Ben was upstairs in the loft, resting in bed, in compliance with Dr. Fisher's orders, and Polly and Joel were downstairs. Polly was sitting in the rocking chair, and Joel was riding some imaginary horse all around the room. "Giddy up!" cried Joel, prancing past the bed. "Well," said a woman's voice close to Polly's chair, startling her visibly. Joel, who was behind the bed whooping away to his horses, did not say anything, because in fact he had not heard anything. But when Polly said aloud, "I can't see anything, Mamma," he came forward and stared with all his might at Miss Jerusha Henderson, the minister's sister. "I came by to see you, little girl," said Miss Jerusha severely, seating herself by Polly. "Thank you, ma'am," said Polly. "Who is this boy?" asked the lady with a trace of annoyance in her voice. "Why, he's my brother Joel," replied Polly. Joel still stared. "Which brother?" Miss Jerusha wanted to know. "He's next to me," said Polly, wishing her mother was home. "He's 9 years old." "Indeed," said the visitor, eyeing him closely. "It seems to me he's big enough to do something to help his mother. Don't you think?" she continued in a cold voice, addressing Joel. "You might do something when the others are sick and your mother is working so hard." I do something," Joel blurted out. "Lots and lots." "You shouldn't say lots," reproved Miss Jerusha, looking over her eyeglasses. "It isn't proper for boys to talk so." "What do you do all day long?" she asked, turning back to Polly after a withering glance at Joel, who still stared. "I can't do anything, ma'am," replied Polly sadly. "I can't see to do anything." "Well, you might knit, I should think," said her visitor. "It's dreadful for a big girl like you to sit all day long doing nothing. I had sore eyes myself when I was a little girl. How old are you?" she asked promptly. 11 last month," said Polly. "I was 9 when I knitted stockings, and I had sore eyes too. You see, I was a very little girl, and—" "Were you ever little?" interrupted Joel, drawing near. "Of course," answered Miss Jerusha. Then she added tartly, "Little boys shouldn't speak unless they're spoken to. Now," she turned back to Polly again, "didn't you ever knit a stocking?" "Not a whole one," admitted Polly. "Mercy!" exclaimed Miss Jerusha. "A big girl like you never to have knitted a stocking. You think your mother should bring you up so, and—" "She didn't bring us up," Joel shouted. "Joel," said Polly, "be still." "You're very impertinent, too," said Miss Jerusha. "A good child is never impertinent." Polly sat still. Miss Jerusha continued, "Now I hope you will learn to be industrious, and when I come again I will see what you have done." "You're not coming here again," said Joel defiantly. "No, never." "Joel," begged Polly, in her distress. She pulled up her bandage as she looked at him. "Miss Jerusha," she said, turning to the visitor, "I don't know why Joel said that. He never talks so. He's really a good boy, and—" "It only shows," said the lady, "that you've all had your own way much too long, and that you do not do what you might to help your mother have a happy life." "Oh, don't say that," cried Polly, bursting into a flood of tears. "Please, please don't say that, ma'am." "Don't cry, Polly," said Joel, throwing his arms round her neck and comforting her as best he could, and Miss Jerusha, seeing that she could gain no further attention, got up and left, feeling pity for the children who turned away from good advice. Chapter 9. Joel's Turn. Polly still cried on. She really couldn't stop. Her eyes were still wet when Mrs. Pepper returned home. "Well, you've had a nice time, I suppose," said Mrs. Pepper, but then she stopped at the bedroom door. "What in the world?" "Oh, Momsey," cried Joel, while Polly held onto her eyes as if they might pop out. "There was a big woman here. She came right in, and she talked awful. Polly's been crying and—" "Crying?" gasped Mrs. Pepper. "I couldn't help it, Momsey. I really couldn't," sobbed Polly, the torrent of tears beginning all over again. "There, there," said Mrs. Pepper, soothing her, cradling Polly tenderly in her arms. "Mother's home now. Don't think of it." It was Miss Jerusha," Polly explained, haltingly between sobs. "I shouldn't have minded, I suppose, but she said we ought to be doing something, and I ought to knit things, and then Joel got to saying those naughty things, and I couldn't even stop him. He told her she wasn't ever coming here again. He really did." "Joel shouldn't have said that," said Mrs. Pepper. Under her breath, however, she added, "but all the same, she isn't." "And, Momsey, aren't I helping you some?" asked Polly, flinging her arms around her mother's neck. "I wish I could do something big for you. Aren't you happy, Momsey?" "Oh, dear me, happy!" cried Mrs. Pepper, hugging Polly tight. "Whatever could that woman have said to you, my own sweet Polly?" And Polly was covered with kisses. But the kisses did not take away Polly's suffering, aching, inflamed eyes in the next few days. Her long flow of burning tears had caused her eyes to itch almost beyond endurance. Mrs. Pepper did the best she could by applying one cool bandage after another to Polly's sensitive eyes. When Dr. Fisher heard about Polly's crying, he looked very serious. Everything had been so encouraging on his last visit that he had come close to considering taking the bandages off. But now it would have to be postponed. And as a crowning climax to their troubles, still another Pepper fell victim to the sickness. This time it was Joel. Joel, who had always seemed the healthiest and the happiest of the merry Peppers. The bewildered family hardly had time to think. When Polly first heard the news, Phronsie ran into the room crying, "Oh, Polly, Joey's dreadful sick." She jumped up and tore the bandage off her eyes. "Now I will help Momsey, I will," she cried, but the next thing she knew, a gentle but firm hand was laid upon hers, and she found herself back in the old rocking chair listening to Dr. Fisher saying, "Now listen to me, young lady. You must not take off that bandage again. Do you understand? If you do, you may well become blind and be a care to your mother instead of the help you want to be. Now, do your part, keep those eyes covered, and dry those tears." 10. A surprise for Polly. One morning, almost as suddenly as it took for him to get sick, Joel sat up in bed and exclaimed, "I'm hungry. I want something to eat." That seemed to be a sure sign that he was back on the road to recovery, and smile glances were once more exchanged all over the little brown house. In fact, from that time on, sunny cheerfulness returned among all of the Peppers and bubbled over happily as it had in the days before the sickness had come. Little David, who was inconsolable at all during the time that Joel was sick, waited on Joel hand and foot now, and Joel, who dearly loved to be waited on, did nothing whatever to discourage his brother's devoted service. He almost considered it worth the while to have had the measles along with the others. "We're all going to have good times now," Polly told Phronsie one day, and though she didn't know it, the good times were coming for Polly. In fact, they were almost upon her. A fitting start was made when Dr. Fisher announced that Polly's eye bandages could now be removed, and no sooner was this done than Polly dashed to the mirror to see herself and how her eyes looked. "Don't they look different?" she asked earnestly. "I hope not," laughed Ben. "It just wouldn't be Polly without those nice brown eyes." "Well, everybody looks different through them anyway," Polly insisted, hugging all her brothers and sisters in turn. "Come into the kitchen, Polly," Joel invited her. "See how it looks out here." "May I, Dr. Fisher?" asked Polly. "You may indeed," replied the doctor. And so Polly walked into the kitchen, coming upon the happiest, most pleasant surprise of her young life. For there, in all its shining, ebony glory, was a brand new stove. Things certainly did look different with Polly's new eyes. Before anyone could think, she dashed forward to touch it, to make sure it was not just a wonderful dream. It was real. Polly was so overcome that she laughed and cried, all in the same breath. How glorious it was! The stove itself seemed to proclaim, "I'm going to make sunshine in this house." "Oh, Mumsy, it's just beautiful!" exclaimed Polly. And then the 5 little Peppers, 4 of whom had known about the new stove, but had kept it from Polly, so that it would be a special surprise, held hands and skipped round. Mrs. Pepper laughed at the sight, and Dr. Fisher chuckled quietly, stole silently away. When the children had finished their dancing, Polly got down before the precious stove, examined and exploring into the ovens and everything that belonged to it. "Just think," Polly sang out, "we'll have no more burnt bread." "I know it," answered her mother, delighted in the joy in her child's voice. "Where did Dr. Fisher go?" asked Polly suddenly, realizing that he was no longer there. "I wanted him to see the stove." "Oh, I think he has seen it," said Mrs. Pepper. "By the way, you haven't yet asked where the stove came from, Polly." "That's true. Where?" Polly stopped. "Did Dr. Fisher bring the stove?" "He didn't exactly bring it," answered her mother, "but he knew something about it. I couldn't stop him. I don't know how he found out you wanted one, but he arranged to have this new one brought in, and he had us all promise to keep it as a surprise for you. He's just the kindest man." "And he saved my eyes," declared Polly. "I've got a new stove and new eyes, Momsey. Just think." "We have much to be thankful for," agreed Mrs. Pepper. "I know what I'm going to do," said Polly. "The very first thing I'm going to bake in that oven will be some apple tarts for Dr. Fisher. He likes them, you know. And sometimes, Momsey, I'm also going to bake him a great big cake." And we'll continue this story next Wednesday. And thanks for listening to Miss Retro Reads.